Hey everyone, welcome back to John's Watch. Today I'm taking a look at a new game called Once Alive. This game was released on Steam on November 18th, 2024. Its regular price is $15.49 Canadian, or your regional equivalent, and it's developed by, and I'm so sorry in advance for my pronunciation of this, Cembore Yildirim, and it's published by GameDev.ist. As you might have guessed from what I just said about the developer, this is indeed developed by one single person. Cem, presumably that's how you pronounce the first name, is a Turkish developer who basically had this idea for a story about 3 years ago. Apparently didn't know anything about creating games, but liked the concept he'd come up with in his head so much that he literally learned how to build a game in Unreal Engine 5 and has now released this game. So this is, like I said, a game developed by just one man. It's really, really impressive. This is described as a story-driven first-person adventure game offering a cinematic experience. Embark on a journey to HaustVille, an abandoned settlement in a post-apocalyptic world. Explore your surroundings and uncover the mystery behind the disappearance of the last survivors. So yes, this is a walking simulator. Basically, it doesn't specifically say that in that description, but it is definitely a walking simulator. I feel like at this point, you probably know if you like walking simulators or not. They're not a new genre anymore. Like Firewatch was what, like 2014 or something, and there were, I mean, Dear Esther was 2010 or something like that. So yeah, it's not a new genre. So presumably, if you're interested in walking sims, you'll probably continue watching this video. Otherwise, you might have clicked away by now. I personally love walking sims. As someone with a lot of games in his Steam library and still a lot of games to cover on this channel, walking sims always jump out to me as fairly short experiences, and this is no exception. How Long to Beat says the main story takes about 2.2 hours. Reviews, most of the reviews hover around 3 hours or so. There's one that just says good game, and they've got 24 hours in the game, which is very impressive. I finished the game in just over an hour. It was probably about an hour 10. I idled a little bit when I went to make a coffee, and I'm thinking maybe the big difference in those play times is the default walking speed is extremely slow, and some people might not find it too slow. I found it painfully slow. Luckily there is a sprint, which just means I was holding my pinky on shift to be sprinting the entire game. So yeah, maybe if you literally walked the whole time, you'd get an extra hour out of the game. But yeah, I was zooming around because the movement speed was so slow. So it'd be nice to have like a toggle for sprint, because my pinky was a little bit tired after holding shift for the whole game. So basically this game is set in a post-apocalyptic world. It doesn't, as far as I can tell, specifically say where it's set. I'm thinking somewhere in Europe, probably, just because the main town, or village, I guess, of HaustVille, is kind of built around this big looking European castle kind of building. And obviously the developer is from Turkey, so that's just my assumption that it's set in Europe. But it's not super important. There was a mass extinction of humanity due to a global virus outbreak, and this game is set 16 years after this outbreak. So by this point, most of humanity's been wiped out. You play as James, and for those 16 years you've been surviving with your brother Daniel, and you've believed that you are literally the only two survivors in the whole world. But then, right at the start of the game, the two brothers see a big, like a sheet, I guess, draped over a building in a downtown that says basically there's survivors at this place called HaustVille. Go check it out. And the brothers are in disagreement about whether they should go to this place or not. Daniel thinks maybe their missing father, who they've presumed is dead but may not be dead, they seem to think, might be there. James does not care about his father. He had a bad relationship with his father, so he is not interested in going to the village, basically. He thinks, you know, we've survived for 16 years, just the two of us. what's the point in risking going there? And because they disagree, Daniel ends up leaving in the middle of the night, going to the village by himself, and then James follows possibly the next morning, maybe a day or two later. And so James eventually reaches this town, village of HaustVille, and quickly discovers that there's nobody there, despite it being supposedly the last bastion of humanity in wherever the game is set. It's empty. There's signs of life, but it looks like everybody's been raptured, and it really did remind me of Everybody's Gone to the Rapture for multiple different reasons. I would be amazed if that game was not an inspiration for this one. Not only has everyone suddenly vanished, but you also see these like remnants, these scenes in remnant form. And if you've played Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, it'll become very recognizable to you what these kinds of scenes are. And I wasn't totally sure if these scenes were viewable to both us as the player and James as the character, and I don't think they were. I think they were literally just gameplay elements to further explain the story, which I don't think was really necessary because the story's fairly simple. You know, it's only told over just over an hour, and pretty much whenever there was any kind of ambiguity, James would voice kind of the solution to you, like right away. So yeah, these weird non-diegetic cutscenes, I guess, in the Everybody's Gone to the Rapture style, did take me out of the game a bit, because if they weren't there as a way of the character learning things, why are they done in that style just for the player to learn something? It was quite strange. Obviously, as this is a very story-driven game, I won't talk about the story anymore. I think you've got a good idea of the backstory. I guess there's one more thing. Kind of the key mystery is once you reach the town, you find a little graveyard very early on, and there's tombstones for everybody in the graveyard, and the vast majority of them all say died age 57, and James remarks right away, like, strange that so many people died at 57, and that's, you know, quite a neat mystery in the game. It doesn't last too long, that mystery in particular, but it is very intriguing. There's a little bit of an unsettling air around the village and everything. The graphics are absolutely gorgeous. Like I said, this was made in Unreal Engine 5, which means it looks fantastic, but it does have horrendous stutters at points. It's very open, like there's no loading scenes or anything. You can pretty much traverse, once you've unlocked some doors, one end of the village to the other, pretty much, without going through loading screens. But this does mean as you approach some buildings and as like their interiors are being loaded and unloaded, the game can definitely stutter. It wasn't the worst, you know, there's no action or anything, like I don't need to be reacting to anything like combat. It's just, you know, it just always takes me out, big stutters like that. That just comes with Unreal Engine 5, unfortunately. My computer handled it really well. I went through the settings right at the beginning, tweaked a couple of things, but mostly left everything on high and ultra, a couple of things on medium, just kind of as the settings were assigned when I launched. And I never tweaked the settings about 5 minutes into the game. Outside the village, I was at about 100, 120 FPS, right in like the heart of the village where it's densest. I got down to like 68 FPS, I think, but it never went low enough for me to need to tinker with the options, which was good. I saw some reviews and comments talking about performance. I do believe there was actually a new patch, I think right at the end of November, so a little bit after release, that fixed some performance issues. I didn't really have any performance issues apart from the Unreal Engine 5 stutters, so the patch obviously has done some good work. Incredibly, this solo developed project has motion capped actors in the cutscenes, and it's mostly good. There's a couple of instances where like the mo-capped actor, it looks to be like grinning or something, has like a big smile, and then it like snaps back to how the character would be acting. But like those couple of moments aside, the motion cap and the cinematics look really natural. I was really impressed with some of the cinematics. And something really cool about the motion cap is that it was modeled on the developer's own face and his brother's own face for James and Daniel respectively. It's a really personal project to the developer, and he was involved in literally every aspect of the game. Once you finish it and you get to the end credits, it does like a normal credits scroll. I guess it doesn't really scroll, it goes from like title to title, and they're all pretty much the Chem's name, which is exactly what I would do if I'd solo developed a game. I'd want like full credits with just my name over and over because I think that's awesome. I was a little worried about playing this game. The top 2 reviews on Steam are negative or not recommended. The most helpful one is not recommended and starts off with, "You tried, that's the best I can say about the game." And then the next most helpful one is someone with 0.4 hours who refunded the game. So I was a bit worried about it, and it's not perfect by any means, but for a solo developed game at literally less than 15 bucks Canadian, I think it's very good actually. I think it's solid. It was an interesting story, interesting setting. You probably can get about 2 hours out of it. I didn't, but if you are okay with not sprinting everywhere, I think you can get a little bit more playtime out of it. And it's priced pretty well. You could maybe knock like $1 or $2 off it, but this is literally 3 years of one man's work. One man's life has gone into this game. I think less than 15 bucks Canadian is very reasonable for it. Like I said, it is not perfect. The voice acting is not great. Unfortunately, the worst voice acting performance does come from the main character, James. Unfortunately, that is the one you hear the most. I did suspect, like right at the start, when you're just doing cinematics, that it might be an AI voice because it sounded so unnatural. It's not. There's a credit for all the voices in the credits at the end of the game, but yeah, the voice acting is not good. I would say the voice acting kind of ranges from like poor to passable throughout the game. Like there's some bad ones, there's some okay ones, but there's nothing really above okay. Some of the writing is a little bit iffy. There was, I think, probably like 3 times in the game I literally laughed out loud when I definitely wasn't supposed to. There was one point where, as I mentioned earlier, you find all these tombstones with age 57 on them, so people in the village are dying at age 57 for some reason. And there's one point where James is just wandering through the village, and then all of a sudden he stops, and he says to himself, "Wait a minute, how old's father?" "Today's his 57th birthday!"
How old is father? Oh my god. He is turning 57 today.
And it was just so... I don't know. It made me laugh and laugh at that part. It's just so, like, coincidental. Like, oh yes, of course this game is taking place on his father's 57th birthday. It was really funny, and it wasn't meant to be. I think that's about all I have to say about Once Alive. To sum it up, solo developed project. If you want to support solo developers, pick this up. It's not too expensive. In the autumn sale, it was 20% off, which takes it to literally barely above 10 bucks Canadian. If you want a short 1 to 2 hour walking sim that's made by a single developer, give it a shot, honestly. There you go, that was a look at Once Alive. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!